Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Grab yourself a cup of tea and let's talk some boxing. Now, Conor Benn has spoken out about the Amir Khan fight, the Sean Porter fight, and the chances of those fights taking place. Now, Sean Porter said that his eyes are too big for his stomach, so he's not really interested in Conor Benn at the moment, unless something official or some kind of advance is made towards trying to make that fight happen. Now, Conor Benn versus Sean Porter would be a good fight. I would rather see Conor Benn have one more. I mean, he got a little bit annoyed that people were saying that that's a few fights away. And I agree, it's not a few fights away, it's one or two. I mean, the last fight against Sammy Vargas, it was only one round. Now I know that it was explosive fashion in which he got the job done, but that doesn't give him all that much experience. I mean, he's gained a lot of experience during his career. I mean, if you look at him at the start, and look at him now, he has come on leaps and bounds, but still I believe that he needs one more fight, maybe a good fight that goes 10 or 12 rounds. An opponent who can stick in there with him and be tough like Sean Porter would, because Sean Porter is not going to be bothered by what Conor Benn throws at him. I mean, I know that Conor Benn does have power, but Sean Porter can stand up to that kind of power. I mean, we've seen him in there with Errol Spence, and I don't know how Conor Benn's power will match up to Errol Spence's, but the only way we will find out is when he eventually gets there. Still, there is more he needs than just a big punch and a flurry of punches to be able to stop Sean Porter. And that is definitely a fight I can see Conor Benn in, but one more maybe and then he can move on. I mean, Conor Benn apparently is going to be fighting at Fight Camp. That's not going to be Porter. I mean, he even said that he would need a crowd for that, or for perhaps Amir Khan. So his next fight won't be either of those two. But he did have a message for Amir Khan. He told him to stop conning the public because he has fights with the likes of Sammy Vargas going life or death with him, Philo Greco, and then going in against Billy Dib, who is a couple weight classes below him, just by popping over to Saudi and earning the big bucks fighting someone who doesn't realistically have a chance against him. So he says that Amir Khan is conning the British public by continuously doing that. Now, I'm not really too bothered about that. I'm bothered about Amir Khan and where he plans to go next, and Conor Benn more specifically, because I believe that Conor Benn has a great future ahead of him. He does need to plan the fights, and I believe that that is happening with Matchroom Boxing. I believe they are planning the fights, and they are having the right fights at the right time. One thing I did find interesting is they haven't gone the English title route, they haven't gone the British title route. There is apparently talk of him fighting for a European title, given that David Avanesian looks to move on to world honours. He's looking to get a world title opportunity next, so that could mean that Conor Benn gets an opportunity at that title. And I do like that. I don't like the idea of him going straight to world level, because there's nothing much in between. I mean, he can do it, but I'd rather see him go for a European title first. I mean, he's not going to go for the British title now. If he goes for any title that isn't a world championship, it will likely be the European title, because I don't believe he thinks he's at that level now. I think he believes he's beyond British level, so he wants to be fighting for the European title, then going on to a world championship opportunity. But I would say that Conor Benn's happy to bypass that European title completely and go straight for a world title. And I do like that. I like that Conor Benn wants to get there and he wants to fight these guys. That's brilliant. And it's down to his team, Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing, to make sure that they rein him in and give him the right fights at the right time. But I think that is extremely positive to see a young fighter just trying to get to the top, wanting to face Sean Porter, Amir Khan, perhaps Kell Brook. Those big fights, he just wants to be in them. But it is down to those behind the scenes to ensure that Conor Benn has the right fights to prepare him so that he's ready for when those fights actually come. Now, obviously with Amir Khan, I don't think anyone's eagerly watching to see what he does next. I mean, there was talk of a Kell Brook fight. That is now gone. There's no talk of Kell Brook anymore with Amir Khan, just the same way it always does. It just buys a little bit of intrigue into Amir Khan, and maybe Kell Brook as well. When they talk about that, even if it's dwindling now, they still get a bit of publicity when they say, okay, there's no other fight, let's fight each other. Kell Brook wants to fight Amir Khan wants to fight Kell Brook. If the money is right, which it never seems to be, or there is something that goes wrong behind the scenes. I don't even think they ever get that far into negotiations for Kell Brook versus Amir Khan. So that seems highly unlikely. I'm not entirely convinced we'll see Amir Khan back in the ring again. I mean, he's talking about coming back again to the sport, but for what reason? I mean, if he could get a world title chance against Errol Spence, is he going to win that? I'd say no, it's highly unlikely. Terence Crawford, he's already lost to him. There is Ugas there, but still, you have to wonder what is the motivation for Amir Khan. One or two more, maybe, but he needs to show what his intentions are in the boxing ring before coming back for no real reason. Same with Kell Brook, he's in the same boat. He needs to come back for some reason, for a world title, for some other reason like an Amir Khan fight or like a Conor Benn fight, but I don't see either of those two getting in the ring with Conor Benn. So Ben can just move on and he needs to start working towards a European shot or something that could prepare him for a Sean Porter. He did allude to perhaps Devon Alexander, who is still around somewhere, and he has been talking recently, apparently says Conor Benn, and he spoke about Victor Ortiz as well. But those kind of fights, I wouldn't say that he'd gain all that much because I think that those guys are not past it because that sounds a bit disrespectful, but they're not what they once were. So I would rather see Conor Benn go in there with someone who's maybe around a similar stage to him. I mean, maybe he could go for someone who is in a similar situation who wants a title shot. David Avanesian would be a great fight for Conor Benn at the moment because he'd get great experience from that. Avanesian could move on to a world title opportunity next, although he's guaranteed nothing. So that could be a great fight. I'm just not convinced that David Avanesian would want to take Conor Benn, not because he's scared, but because he had that great win over Josh Kelly, and he will want to move on to world honours now. He's not necessarily going to want to risk it against Conor Benn, as brilliant as that fight would be. I think that Conor Benn could get something from going a Thurman route, so have one fight perhaps at fight camp, then go and try and make a Keith Thurman fight. I think that the style does work well. I think that he can do that fight in the UK, he can also do it in America, and I believe that Keith Thurman is looking for big bucks now. He wants to be paid to fight, but the thing is, he has very little that he can bring to the table, and he does need someone with a name, so perhaps it could work in the UK. Conor Benn versus Keith Thurman. Now that would be a good fight to test Conor Benn, but not yet, maybe one more, and have that one perhaps towards the end of the year. Anyway, guys, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below, also leave a like and grab that subscribe button. Thanks guys.